The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
What's the news at 6? I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. First, the highlights. A major agriculture investment conference is billed for Guyana. A man has been charged with having a child watch a sexual act. And regionally, CARICOM is mounting a fact-finding mission to Haiti. Internationally, we get the latest from the war-torn area of Ukraine, in that conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The news comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC.
Planning to watch TV or listen to the radio or just enjoy a lime? Then grab a bucket of KFC finger-licking good chicken and enjoy the exciting taste of KFC and their branches on Vicinjan Road, Mandela Avenue, Regent Street, Ink Street, Stabrook Square, Breeden Hoop, Parika, Movie Town, or now at the Amazonia Mall at Providence. Now open from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. You'll always be enjoying the great taste of KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. Guyana is gearing up for a major investment in agriculture conference. The conference will be held from May 19 to 21. Already, Republic Bank has agreed to provide $100 million to governments to lend to farmers. Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley says some of the agricultural initiatives will be led by the private sector and the other by governments. She hopes that the regional business community will also invest in the agriculture drive.
In addition, the Caribbean Private Sector Organization made a presentation looking at the poultry sector in particular and recognizing the opportunities there. So we hope that the private sector, the regional private sector, will also come to the table ready to make the decisions for investment that will allow us to achieve this target of 25 by 25.
Guyana, through a joint initiative between the private sector and the government, has begun a large-scale production of soya and corn in the intermediate savannas. CARICOM leaders have agreed to consider what should be the amount of local content and over what period. This comes in the wake of concerns by the Caribbean Private Sector Organization, CPSO, about whether Guyana's local content legislation is breaching Caribbean Community CARICOM single market rules. Briefing the media on the outcome of the CARICOM midterm summit that was held in March 1 and 2 in Belize, Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley said CARICOM leaders have decided to find a way of addressing local content without breaching the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that governs the single market.
Within the context of the discussions on the CARICOM single market and economy, we placed before heads and heads accepted that there is need for us to review the issue of local content. And there's an open-ended committee of member states that will start to work very shortly, recognizing that in new areas of economic activity, what we call sunrise industries, there may well be, and I certainly support, that there is a case for some level of local content. And the issue will be, what should that percentage of local content be? And what is the timeline that it should be valid for? Because if you're giving it to a sunrise industry, then they don't need it 30 years from now or 20 years from now.
Ms. Mottley says Guyana's need for local content is justifiable.
We're going to do the discussions among ourselves with a view towards recommending to the full conference of heads what the appropriate framework should be, such that no one will be held in breach for wanting to do that which is most natural. That if we accept that we share the burden in hard times, then we must share the bounty in good times too. And that is all that we understand Guyana and other countries that want to introduce local content in emerging industries are seeking to do.
The Caribbean Private Sector Organization has said that Guyana's local content legislation violates the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. The opposition of Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change had issued a similar warning during debate on the legislation, but the government had shrugged off those concerns. ExxonMobil says that it has significantly reduced its flaring from the floating production, storage, and offloading FPSO vessel Liza Destiny. That oil-producing vessel had been dogged by repeated problems with its flash gas compressor. This had resulted in the flaring of a large amount of natural gas into the atmosphere, causing ExxonMobil Guyana to pay fines to the Environmental Protection Agency. After significant works lasting several months, the flash gas compressor has been reinstalled. Now, ExxonMobil Guyana's production manager Mike Ryan tells News Talk Radio Guyana that flaring from the Liza Destiny FPSO has been reduced significantly, and the company wants to reduce it even further.
We've been able to use the current machine we have to get down to 4%. So meaning we are now injecting or consuming 96% of the gas that we're producing from Liza Destiny. So we're at 4%. I want to get to 1. So Dennis, it's important that you put that in context that we're not flaring all the gas. We are working extremely hard to continue to lower that, and the team has found innovative ways.
That's ExxonMobil Guyana's production manager Mike Ryan. On the crime scene, a resident of Suicide Back Road, East Bank, Demerara, has been sentenced to 3 years imprisonment and fined $10.5 million for being in possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking. Police say that a penalty was imposed on 37-year-old Kwesi Innes. He appeared virtually at the Linden Magistrates Court before Magistrate Wanda Fortune, where the charge was read to him. He pleaded guilty. A 22-year-old man has been charged with causing a child under 16 years old to watch a sexual act. The incident occurred on December 4. Charged with the offense as a resident of Silvertown, Wismar, Linden. He appeared before Magistrate Wanda Fortune. The accused was not required to plead and was placed on $75,000 bail. The matter has been postponed to the 23rd of March 2022. On the regional scene, Caribbean community CARICOM leaders have decided to dispatch a team to Haiti in the coming weeks in an effort to resolve the worsening political situation there. This announcement was made by CARICOM Chairman Belize's Prime Minister Juan Briceño at a news conference at the close of a midterm summit of regional leaders.
It's going to be ministers and experts because we want to be able to go in and to come out with an actual plan as to how we can help Haiti, and at the same time to be able to try to reach out to the rest of the international community to be able to help in the actual development of the country. That would be a more medium and long-term part of the plan that we want to work with.
The CARICOM chairman says key issues are creating a long-term development plan and ensuring that there are credible elections.
We're saying that we will establish a CARICOM team to be able to visit Haiti with a view to providing support in the facilitation of dialogue. Because when there are so many different competing groups, it's important for us to be able to move forward in Haiti that we have to bring everyone around the table. We have to try to support, we have to support the administration in holding credible elections. It's of no use to have an election right now and then you have a large portion of the population not accepting that. And also, as CARICOM, we want to be able to support a framework for long-term development and building democracy through technical assistance.
Haiti is yet to hold a long-awaited election, and the security situation is not improving. Foreigners are being kidnapped and held for ransom. Last year, a group of Colombian mercenaries with links to the Haitian community had invaded the private residence of President Jovenel Moïse and assassinated him. In Suriname, almost all hospitals face major problems. The National Hospital Council today told the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Public Health that the hospitals do not have sufficient money to cover operational costs. Star News also reports that the committee heard that suppliers are no longer giving credit to the hospitals. The National Hospital Council also informed that hospital warehouses are often empty and skilled personnel have gone abroad. During the the public meeting this afternoon, National Democratic Party faction leader Rabin Parmesar called attention to the precarious situation in the healthcare system. He argued that there is a health crisis. More than 200 nurses have left Suriname in recent months. After carefully combing through thick crude, the decomposing body of the fourth diver Rishi Nagasar was finally recovered during the wee hours of Thursday morning by authorities in Trinidad. In a statement, Paria Fuel Trading announced that the body was recovered at 12:36 a.m. The Trinidad Guardian newspaper reports that the company said it has offered counseling support to the families and loved ones of the four divers. On Tuesday, one day after the three other divers were found, Paria began searching the line using robotic cameras. The recovery operation was described as complex. Paria said it had to be conducted with extreme care, given the fact that the bodies were lodged behind the diving equipment in a 30-inch pipeline 60 feet below the surface and more than 100 feet along the seabed. In the British Virgin Islands, a major police operation on Tuesday has led to the charges against 4 persons in connection with the discovery of illicit drugs and firearms. Those charged include a Trinidadian 31-year-old Callon Fortune. He has been charged with 5 counts of keeping a prohibited weapon, 1 count of keeping an unlicensed firearm, and 1 count of overstaying. Mr. Fortune is to appear before the magistrate's court at the next available sitting. 2 nationals of the British Virgin Islands have been charged with unlawful possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply as a result of Tuesday's operation. We now go to the BBC World Service for the latest bulletin of international news.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has given a strident defence of his country's military invasion of Ukraine, saying the campaign was going to plan. Mr. Putin said he would never give up on his convictions that Russians and Ukrainians were one people, but accused the West of trying to make Ukraine into an anti-Russia. He also made a series of unsubstantiated allegations against Ukrainian forces. There has been heavy fighting across many parts of Ukraine, as Caroline Hawley reports.
A missile lands on the northern city of Chernihiv as Russia steps up its use of force a week into its invasion of Ukraine. The emergency services say at least 22 people were killed in the city in an airstrike on a residential area. In another strike, an oil refinery was hit, causing a huge fire. Russian forces have now taken their first city, the port of Kherson. The streets are now deserted in the city of Mariupol, another port which Russian forces have surrounded. There's no electricity, no running water, and very little food. The deputy mayor says fighting has made it impossible to retrieve the bodies of all those killed in Russia's shelling.
Russian and Ukrainian negotiators who've been holding low-level peace talks in Belarus have spoken of some progress. There's been no agreement on a broad ceasefire, but they've reached an understanding about humanitarian corridors. Lisa Yasko, a Ukrainian member of parliament for President Zelensky's party, said she doubted Russia's intentions.
Oh, of course, for us, it's very important to have a platform for diplomatic talks, because that could potentially reach somewhere some potential peace, but we have no illusions at this stage that Russia is not ready for making any deal about peace. Russia just wants to take Ukraine and to replace the government, but it's not going to happen.
The UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi has called on Russian and Ukrainian troops to stop fighting close to one of Europe's biggest nuclear power plants. Videos posted online by the mayor of Enerhodar in northwest Ukraine showed residential buildings and a school coming under shell fire. European Union interior ministers meeting in Brussels have agreed that Ukrainian refugees who have fled into the bloc should be given special temporary protection. The EU Commissioner for Home Affairs called it a historic decision. Jessica Parker reports.
The bloc has triggered a mechanism that's never been used before to allow Ukrainian nationals and their families the right to work, education and welfare. The EU says that those who held long-term residence or refugee status in Ukraine would also be covered either by the directive or national rules, and that temporary workers or students who aren't eligible would still be helped to get home. The scheme could run for up to 3 years, depending on the situation in Ukraine.
So far, the UN estimates that 1 million people have fled Ukraine, the majority of them to 4 EU countries. World news from the BBC. The United States has imposed sanctions against 8 Russian oligarchs and associates of President Putin, focusing on billionaires active in the oil and property sectors. They include Alisher Usmanov, described by the White House as one of Russia's wealthiest individuals. The Kremlin spokesman is also sanctioned. In retaliation, Russia's space agency has said it will stop supplying rocket engines to the US. The Russian Football Union says it will appeal against the ban from international competitions handed out after the country's invasion of Ukraine. The union is taking the appeal against FIFA and UEFA's decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. In Formula One, the organisers of the Motor Racing Championship have also terminated their contract with the promoter of the Russian Grand Prix. The International Paralympic Committee said Russian and Belarusian athletes will be banned from the Winter Paralympics. 2 former Soviet states, Georgia and Moldova, have signed documents officially applying to join the European Union against the backdrop of Russia's war in Ukraine. Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili described the move as historic. The French President Emmanuel Macron has confirmed that he's standing for a second term in next month's elections. He made the widely expected announcement in a letter to regional newspapers. Mr Macron's promised to formulate a uniquely French and European response to the challenges of the century and to defend French values, which he said were threatened by disruptions in the world. Hugh Schofield reports from Paris.
President Macron left it until the last possible moment under the law to make his declaration. It's no surprise that he's standing, but it does mean that over the next 5 weeks he'll have to divide his attention between the campaign on one side and leading the French response to the Ukrainian war on the other. Not only does an international crisis like this tend to favour the incumbent, but 2 of his main contenders, the far-right candidates Marine Le Pen and Eric Zemmour, are also compromised by their support in the past for Vladimir Putin.
BBC News.
That's the news to the moment.
With immediate effect, KFC's Vlissingen Road drive-thru will be open up to 1 a.m. all week. The Movie Town drive-thru will be open up to 1 a.m. on weekends and midnight Monday to Thursday. The Mandela Avenue drive-thru will be open until 1 a.m. on weekends and 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday. New opening times for KFC's drive-thrus at Vlissingen Road, Movie Town and Mandela Avenue.
Now to end the news, a recap of the highlights. A major agriculture investment conference is billed for Guyana. A man has been charged with having a child watch a sexual act. Regionally, CARICOM is to mount a fact-finding mission to Haiti. The news came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken KFC.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
Time in Guyana, 18 hours, 18.
For the toughest jobs, there's only one original motor oil, Valvoline, powering the world's heavy-duty engines in every corner of the world. You can trust the super protection of the original to keep your business moving forward. Valvoline, the original that never stops improving. Distributed by Swiss Machinery, Eccles Public Road. Telephone 233-3821 or 2495 or WhatsApp 691-1732.
Coming up in a short while, we'll be joining the BBC World Service in London for the remainder of the evening. Stay tuned to 103.1 FM.
Of weekend explosions over the city. We've spoken to eyewitnesses on the ground and have examined video footage from the scene. Experts say there is evidence that cluster munitions were used in an attack on a building in a residential area,